Bloomberg Quint.
Welcome back. Just about 25 minutes to go for markets to shut shop, and we are seeing strong session today. Nifty is scaled higher above its 20-day moving average, and for the last 1 hour, it's comfortably trading above that mark. 11,050 is where currently Nifty is trading. There's a sharp rebound seen for most of your banking stocks, and especially the heavyweights. Bank Nifty is at 27,900. Remember, Bank Nifty was underperforming throughout last week, and hence there's a sharper rebound owing to the rise that we've seen for stocks like ICICI Bank as well as Hdfc Bank in today's trade. A very quick look at the globe, what the European market indices have been doing after some positive commentary came from US. CAC, DAX, FTSE will come up on your screen, and let's check how the trade is panning out for the European market indices. It's a mixed session. FTSE is down about 0.5%, but good gains seen for at least CAC, which is up 0.5%, and German index DAX has seen gains about nearly 20 points. US futures Dow futures will come up on your screen. That's indicating a gain of about over 200 points. Let's see how the US markets trade today after the sharp sell-off that was seen on Friday. But back home, let's tell you which are the Fab 4 stocks that feature in Sharad Dubey's list. Let's go across to him. Hi, Sharad. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Navneet. The first stock is Hdfc. The stock is up almost more than 4.5% up. Its biggest intraday gain it's seen in almost 3 months after the corporation received a CCI nod to acquire 51.2% stake in Apollo Munich. So after this merger, Apollo Munich will actually merge with HDFC Ergo. So this deal was valued at around 1,350 odd crore rupees in the month of June. Up next, we are having Dilip Buildcon, which is up almost 4% after the board stated that the company is looking to divest partially or fully its stake in 5 HAM projects. Up next, we are having Central Bank of India in the PSU pack, and the stock is up almost 10% after the PSU banks were, surging after the government advances recapitalization packages of around 70,000 odd crore rupees. And the last stock is Delta Corp, which is up almost 8.5% with volumes rising almost 3 times its 20-day average. So these 4 stocks are buzzing in the space today.
Thanks a lot, Sharad, for bringing those Fab 4 stocks of the day. I just want to pull up MCX as well, which has touched its 52-week high. Remember, the stock's been bucking the trend in the month of August. It's up about 9% as opposed to we've seen losses coming for the indices. That's at almost a day's high. Let's also pull up the futures and check if there's any sort of position that has come in for the August contract of MCX India. Hemant, on the charts at current levels, considering the volumes today, would you take a bet here?
Yeah, 8% long build up, Navneet, and it's looking strangely strong. Strangely in the sense we have an iffy market, and we are at almost, I believe, at 12-month highs, Navneet. We've been in this range between 760 and 900 for at least 4 months, and now we are straining at the leash. We are breaking out. We posted a high of 900 intraday in cash. So maybe we went from 820 to 900 in 2 trading sessions, 10%. That's pretty sharp. So one, it's a trade worth taking. At this level, no. Closer to 870 would give me more comfort levels, make the risk reward ratio favor stop loss closer. And when it takes out 900, I believe this is after 5 months of a consolidation, Navneet. I think we could be looking at 5-7, no, probably 10% more of an upside after the small correction, and then when it takes out 900.
There are 2 stocks, and one to Sameer, one to our new guest Rajat Sharma, who's joining this conversation as well. Sameer, to you, Yes Bank, 63 up 7%. Nibble or leave it alone?
So I think nibble only after Q2 numbers get released and you see a stabilization in the slippage number. If you see a distance,
if it comes about,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You start nibbling from there onwards, because even after QIP or any kind of positive news, it just bounces and comes back even lower. So I don't think so till the time quarterly results show some kind of a resilience in the kind of a downward fall in the provisions and the slippages. I think till that time, stay off from it. Stay invested whatever you hold on to. I don't feel a need to book your losses. But yeah, it'll give you a chance to come back to a price where you can start buying again. But it's dependent on the Q2 data, nothing else.
Okay. Rajat Sharma of Sana Securities with us as well. Rajat, what about State Bank of India? That's the other one, which is corrected quite a bit. Again, fundraising candidate at some point of time, beaten down. PSU banks have this 70,000 crore upfront loading as well. Would you go out and invest into State Bank of India?
Good afternoon, Neeraj. Nice talking to you after a while. No, not State Bank of India. As a rule, I don't invest in PSU banks because, we've seen from time to time in both, bullish markets, bearish markets, they have their own set of problems. They have to do things which, a private corporate should not or would not want to do. So I've always stayed away from private sector banks irrespective of valuation. So not that. In fact, you said there's capital infusion in this. Right now, my worry is that nothing seems to have any sort of impact on the market. The government announced capital infusion, RBI has cut interest rates, yet you see bond prices continue to trade at a discount. So, in this environment, in the whole financial services sector where no positive news seems to have any impact on the positive side on the stock prices, valuations remain high. We've seen quarter after quarter earnings not improving. In fact, last quarter we had an earnings degrowth. So in this kind of environment, financial services stocks, in fact, overall market can correct very sharply is my sense. I've heard a few people talking about the government doing things to improve the markets or showing intent to do that. But, the truth is nothing is having an impact. And anybody who's saying that talks of this slowdown or the way people are getting negative on the market, it's sort of slightly overplayed. I don't agree with that. I think the slowdown is very real, and valuations are as high as they've been since the turn of the century. So in this kind of environment, to go out and buy stocks irrespective of how cheap they are, you may be surprised. The cheap stocks can get far more cheaper from where they are.
Okay. The other one is Delta Corp, which is having a remarkable move today, up about 8.5% odd. Maybe a bounce that's happened and taken a lot of the beaten down names higher. Rajat, any thoughts here? Delta Corp?
I used to track this stock at one point of time. I've really completely lost track of what happened with the casino operations, and I don't know why today the stock has moved. As I said, I've not been tracking this for a very long time.
Okay, fair enough. We'll talk about some others which you track as well. But Himen, on the charts, Delta Corp, I think Hormuz, my producer, tells us that it's right at that 50-day moving average. It's bounced back after a while. How do the charts look?
Charts look that this is a dead cat bounce. Normally mid caps become half, it became half, 275 to 140. So now we are bouncing back, and we spent 6 weeks over here hatching eggs. So now we are giving a sympathy recovery. Range of 140 to 167, this is 6.5 weeks. So if we take out 167, we see 180, but yeah, once again, it could go up further. We've seen a volume spike, highest in the last 10 trading sessions. We're still not done. We're at 14 lakhs and spiking up. So 167 is the first headache. Post that, some more bounce, but once again, everything seems to say just a bounce because it became half, nothing more.
While it's a remarkable move, it's not turning out to be as great for some of the cement names. Ultratech may be doing okay. A lot of the mid-sized ones aren't quite. And while we're talking about the gainers all through and through, also pays heed to maybe look at a couple of losers. So after a few days of gains, Hathway and Den, I think both have corrected. Vodafone had some spark in the morning, but again coming off. And we've already spoken about metals, but Future Consumer is the other one, 2.5% lower at 228. Sun Pharma is down about 2%, so keep that at the back of your mind. That is also looking weak. What is looking strong? And 2 or 3 names out here. Can I come to you on what would you do with the Edelweiss? It's up 9% today.
So I think as far as balance sheet and the P&L, if you see, I don't see any respite coming on. Quarter on quarter, it's getting worse for Edelweiss. The fundraising, you haven't seen a good amount of NCD being raised by the group. The commercial paper market is almost blocked for them. So I think it will become next to impossible for them after a certain time to raise any amount to even match the liabilities which they have. So I think any cash coming in right now, and it's a better place to exit within this rally and maybe switch to a Hdfc or a Canfin Homes over there, because I think the NBFC details which they have given on the Friday presser. So I think over there it's very clear that it will be a very selected based liquidity given, and I think Hdfc Limited and Canfin are having ample amount of liquidity now where they are able to gain the market shares. So the dispersal rate is much higher as compared to other private insurers or PSU finances. So I think it's better to play through the quality, even if you are able to get any bounces, and switch over to a higher quality system.
Okay, that's the view coming in on a couple of these NBFCs which are up and about in today's session. If we could just pull up Rupee as well. Remember, the day's low was somewhere about 72.25, and currently we've seen strength at least coming from those lower levels in the morning session. And Rupee is now, of course, below the mark of 72, but at 71.87, which also happens to be the high point of the day for Indian rupee. And talking about this, remember how IT stocks were bucking the trend when we were seeing weakness coming into the markets. Rajat, rupee depreciation could be one factor. In the month of August, we've seen rupee weakening about 4%. That could be creating a tailwind somewhat for these IT companies. But a quick thought here, is there anything that you like, large cap versus mid caps?
Yeah, so I've had a large portion of my portfolio invested in Infosys, and I still feel that at multiples of 22, that stock is still very cheap, because going by the forecast for IT sector next year and rupee depreciating, as you said, everything augurs really well for this company, and this company still has a lot of cash on its books which it has to either deploy or pay back as dividends or bonus shares. So this is one stock which it's actually refreshing to look at a stock like that in markets like this, which is not overvalued. It's in the IT sector, which is a very fast growing sector, and people don't realize, because the last 5-7 years you've not seen the valuations in IT swell to the levels at which they used to be around 8-10 years back. So I think if you look at a longer horizon on these stocks, you'd find that these stocks are still available really cheap. And between mid cap and large cap stocks, as I said, if you have an Infosys which so much cash on its books and one of the best business models in the Indian IT space, why would you look at anything else? So I think in these overvalued markets, that's a stock which I hold and continue to hold, and I think even at this 800 odd level, you can safely go and buy that stock.
Okay, that's Infi for you, which has actually given you returns at least for this calendar year. But I mean, a quick thought on the charts with regard to rupee versus dollar?
I think we're over about the high of today. If it doesn't get overcome in the next couple of days, Nami, the dollar is due for a correction. The rupee should strengthen just a bit. Yeah.
Okay, stay on, gentlemen. It's time to get a sense of what dealing rooms are recommending in the session today. Darshan and Yatin join in with their channel checks. Good afternoon, both of you. Darshan, let's start off with you first.
Yeah, today it's a day in which the market is doing extremely well. The Nifty Bank is up almost 1,000 points at this point of time. Dealers do indicate that State Bank of India is something that dealers indicate that some of the domestic funds are buying. You've seen the move that's come in some of the private sector banks like an HDFC Bank, the HDFC Limited, ICICI, Kotak, all of them are doing well. There could be more potential buying that will come in on State Bank of India. The other counter that dealers are talking about is HCL Tech. In a day where the market is rallying, hasn't moved much given the fact that it's a defensive play. But the way the rupee has been moving, a lot of dealers indicate that there is money that's moving on into some of the IT stocks to play that. And HCL Tech is one of the cheapest IT stocks, even cheaper than some of the mid caps. So there could be more potential buying that could come in. Pyramid Enterprises up almost 6%. Heavy volumes, 1.2 million shares already traded. There is a buzz of a possible corporate announcement that could come in very soon, and that's moving the share price even higher. But Yatin, what are you hearing?
Darshan, in the financial services space, Rbl Bank is something wherein dealers do indicate that domestic funds are buyers in trade today. Of course, there has been a healthy correction in the share price, and domestic funds are lapping up shares according to dealers. DLF is the next one wherein we have seen a good amount of momentum. Remember last week this was one of the top losers in the future and option segment, but dealers are indicating that there is a lot of short covering which is seen in real estate stocks, especially in the likes of DLF for the trade today. And MCX is another counter wherein dealers are recommending a buy today, sell tomorrow based on the FNO trends. And more importantly, we have seen the gold and silver prices move, which probably aids the overall volume traded on the MCX platform. And that could also be one fundamental thing because of which the stock has moved in trade today. So dealers overall have been positive on MCX.
Okay, we will watch out. MCX, we just spoke about it as well. Yatin, thanks so much. Darshan, thanks so much for putting all of those into perspectives. Well, just before we thank Samir, would you go out and buy into any of the cement names? Say for Ultratech, the others are looking a bit soft. In fact, a lot of these small size ones are correcting today on a day like this.
So I think I'll start a SIP in Shree Cement.
Shree Cement.
Yep, because if again, see, I'm more believer in the balance sheet because balance sheet catches up to the P&L. So I think Shree Cement is better to play down any kind of a slowdown if it's coming even on the housing side, and now their volume offtake is going lower. So I think if I want any kind of exposure, and maybe Ultratech, but at a 10 to 15% kind of a lower valuation from that, let's say a 3,500, 3,600 will be a place where you might feel SIP can be started over there.
So both are expensive, but Shree Cement is debt-free, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
Yeah.
Leave it at that, Samir. Thanks much for taking the time out and being with us today and giving us your thoughts. That's the view from Samir Kalrahaba. It's 3:20. It's time to get in some closing strategies from our experts as well. Just keep in mind as we do that, the stocks like Bajaj Twins, the HDFC Twins, and the SL Group stocks, all of them doing well. ADAG, of course, is having a remarkable outing in the session today. Lots to choose from him in. If you had to bet on one BTST or STBT, which one would that be?
I wouldn't go for a STBT neither. I'd prefer a BTST. Axis Bank, we spoke. I liked RBL, Axis both, but it's moved up. So I guess I'll pick HUL, Neeraj. We posted a fresh all-time high, and the outlook remains positive. Indicators are positive on the early 2 early 3 early charts, above averages, 3% long build-up. BTST on HUL, Neeraj.
Okay. BTST on a Hindustan Unilever, that's inching up as well. But interesting comment on the stock given earlier, Axis Bank. It's moved up, so Eamon is not recommending it technically for a trade. Fundamentally, you don't invest in PSU banks, Rajat. So what about the two Axis and ICICI Bank? Where do they stack up? Would you invest in them? Would you invest in them over the Kotaks and the HDFCs of the world at the current valuations?
No, Neeraj. So in the private banking space, I have two stocks in my portfolio. One is IDFC First Bank. I've been really positive on this stock since they had that merger with Capital First. I think they're still having these teething issues with aligning the balance sheets. It's really hard to read it right now. But I think they will definitely benefit from the client base that they acquire after the merger with Capital First. And the other stock is Rbl Bank, actually, because if you see the stock, the price has fallen. They did a QIP issuance at 116. They're planning one more, and every month, every week, they keep having these announcements where they're giving presentations to a lot of QIBs, and they're looking to raise more money to grow, to expand its branch network. I was looking at it some time back. Their NPAs have actually remained fairly decent at about 1.7% and nothing's really changed for this bank in this slowdown. They've acquired a stake in non-interest bearing businesses in the investment banking arm. So they're strengthening a lot of their non-interest bearing business verticals as well. So that's another stock that I really like. And both these stocks, I like smaller stocks in the private banking space. And I think smaller banks can continue to grow or will grow at a much faster rate because banking, still remains underserviced. And these smaller, especially regional banks, should probably going forward in the next 5-10 years outperform a lot of their larger peers. So these are two stocks in the banking space which I had. The other stock that I'd like to talk about, which I've recently liked and added, is you were talking about the infrastructure and cement story. I think Coal India as a stock right now, where that is available at about 188 rupees. In this market, if you were to be the kind of investor who's happy to hold something which, if it falls 10, 15, maybe 20% from where if the overall market completely crashes or corrects, you'd still continue to make about 7-8% dividend yield. So, this is a very fixed income type of strategy. You buy the stock, you continue to make your tax-free dividend until markets recover. This is a monopoly. It's owned by the government. It's got a very high EPS. It's got a very, very reasonable valuation. So in these markets, I'd be happy to hold some of these high dividend income, stocks. So that's the other thing that recently I've acquired.
Okay, Coal India forever remains the dividend play, dividend yield of about 10%. Remember, the IPO in 2010 was at 245, and today the stock trades at levels of about 189. Pull up Lnt Finance Holdings, that's gone up in trade, and I think it's seen a lot of long build-up also in the future side. A day's high, up about 7% in trade. The volumes have been pretty good there. Remain fresh longs at current levels, 7 to 8% higher. What should be the target on the upside?
I think 100, and incidentally on Friday we saw NSE cash market gross volume of 2.28 crores, which is probably a month's high, and we're seeing another 2 crores over here. So 4.28, and we still have 5 minutes. So almost 4.5 crores gross volume combined. This is higher volume in the highest in the last couple of months. So obviously stronger hands are bought. 100 is the first psychological and technical level, Navneet. And if the market continues, I could probably upgrade 100 to 104.
Okay, 100 should be the first target on Lnt Finance Holdings, and if the up move continues, you can see levels of 104. Rajat, before we thank you, we've seen the broader markets underperforming in the last 1 year. If you're poised to recover from current levels, is there anything from that space that you would like to share with our viewers?
From the broader markets, you mean from the large cap space?
Mid cap and small cap.
Mid cap and small cap. Sometime back I just heard somebody talking about Canfin Homes. Now this is again one of the stocks which I've held in my portfolio for a very long time. I've even added this stock at 550 or 560 odd levels. I'm really not worried about holding this stock. I think its all-time high was something like 640, 650, somewhere there, and then it corrected a lot when the recent housing finance crisis happened. Now, why I'm recommending the stock is, in all this mess, nothing really changed for this company. Their NPAs still remain 0.5%, which is as healthy as it gets. And with DHFL pretty much out of the housing loan space, and what's going on with India Bulls, you never know. And these were, DHFL and India Bulls Housing were the top five by volume, by the market share. So if these guys are out, a lot of the housing finance companies below them would probably benefit from the market share that they empty. And Canfin Homes is an extremely healthy company. It's got a market cap of 5,000 crores, so it's still relatively small. They're essentially in South India. So, as I said, their EPS, I believe, continues to grow at rupees 22 per quarter. Basically, nothing changed for this company, so I really don't know why it fell from, I do believe 640, 650 levels was too much for that stock. It had run up a lot in the frenzy of housing finance. But at the price at which it is, and again, I added this sometime back, I added this around 300, 305 odd levels. It's run up since then. But I still believe that over the next 3-4 years, this stock will continue to outperform and grow a lot on the back of, because housing finance, the demand is there, and with the way real estate prices are going down, this is a sector which will still be one of the best performing sectors. So I think that's another stock that in the mid cap space, I would definitely suggest anybody who's looking to buy something can go ahead and buy.
We'll leave it at that, Rajat. Thanks much for taking the time out and being with us today and giving us your thoughts. Let's start wrapping up the markets now. 3 minutes left for the markets to shut shop. And the Nifty Bank is the man of the match, really. 1,000 points up today, very close to 28,000. It's quite a remarkable move, and that's led the Nifty and the Sensex to do very well for themselves, 2% higher apiece for both of those. The mid caps and the small caps should come up on your screen as well. 2.3% for the small caps, 1.5% for the mid caps. Relatively subdued, but no one's complaining, frankly, on the day when the rest of the Asian pack, all of which ended in the red. This is quite a remarkable move that we've had today. Our own doing, really, courtesy Friday's measures. Let me talk about the large caps first, though, and see what's happening. Then Navneet will bring you up to speed with what's happening at the broader end of the spectrum. So Adani Ports up about 6%, Yes Bank 5.5%, Hdfc up about 5%. Strength in Ultratech about 5% higher, Bajaj Finance about 5%. You look at 5% is the norm really. The top 10 names, the lowest performing stock is Indiabulls Housing Finance, just about 3.2%. So none of the top 10 stocks have gained less than 3%, which is quite a remarkable statistic today. What's not done well, JSW Steel. Metals by and large have looked okay. So JSW Steel and Tata Steel, both of them, and Vedanta have all corrected. Hero Motocorp, Sun Pharma, a couple of percentage points apiece. Reliance has underperformed, down about 1%. Tata Motors and Hindalco are amongst the others which have also corrected. So globally exposed stocks and commodities in particular have looked slightly wobbly, but banks are doing exceptionally well, and that's what's helped the index. Now, what about the broader end of the spectrum? Have PSU banks and some of the others stayed put?
That's right, Neeraj. We did see gains coming in for a lot of these stocks in the broader market space. But let me start off with the Lnt Finance Holdings, which we just discussed on the show with Hemain as well. The stock surged almost 7% in trade. It snapped the 5-day fall, and it's closing almost at the high point of the day. Marico is the other one. The stock in the last few sessions has been underperforming, and we've seen a lot of OI build-up coming about on the short side. And remember, in a good uptrending market like today's, you did see some bit of selling pressure from Marico, though it recovered from the day's low. HPCL was the other one which went up in trade. That stock was up about 5.5% towards the closing. And Ashok Leyland also bounced back today. Some buying momentum probably seen at lower levels, 5% higher for this one. M&M Financial bucking the trend, up 8% so far in the month of August, and the stock was up for the second straight day, closing with gains of about nearly 6%. Neeraj was talking about the banking stocks. Rbl Bank, IDBI Bank was up about 12%. So a lot of both in private as well as the PSU banking space, there was buying interest seen, and Dewan Housing from the NBFC pack. So when the markets go up, these are the beaten down high beta counters which tend to move higher as well. Dewan Housing was up about 11 to 12%, and of course Reliance Infra, the other high beta stock, which was also one of the top F&O gainer, by the way, today up about 12%. On the losing side, I guess I've already highlighted Marico. Aurobindo Pharma is the other stock. I think it's a couple of stocks from the pharma space were witnessing selling pressure. So Aurobindo closing almost a day's low with cuts of 1%. Biocon was also down in today's trade. And of course, you also had Procter & Gamble Health and Hygiene, which did not have a great session today. PGHH saw some bit of selling pressure coming from the top. So these are your MNCs, probably not too liquid as well, but still for the day. Okay, this one probably saw some bit of recovery from towards in the last half an hour or so, up 2.5%. But net, the market breadth today actually looked pretty positive, Neeraj, and that's after a while that we've seen positive cues coming in from both. At least in the afternoon, we did get some positive cues from the global market, which staged the recovery, and we've closed almost at the high point of the day.
Yeah, but the only caveat is, I think there is this Chinese official or somebody from that region called Hu Xijin, whose Twitter account seems to suggest
they've denied any negotiation talks.
They said that it doesn't have the significance that President Trump is suggesting. I think that's what the tweet suggests. I just saw it on the network. And maybe, just maybe, the US markets might cool off during the course of the day. You never know. So be mindful of that. Anyways, the market is shut now, so not much that can be done about. But we ended well, courtesy global markets for sure. And of course, our own measures, but helped buoyed by that change in the comment that came in from President Donald Trump. Pull up the turnover. Very interested in that to see if the cash market turnover exceeds 35. Just about 35,971. Unexpected headlines. I think we did about 10,000 odd crores in the last 1.5 hours during the course of this show. And the F&O volumes too. It's expiry week now, but for the first day,
it's
the number is
usually
slightly
10
high.
to 11. It is on the higher side. I think also participation came back considering the moves that was announced by FM today. So both on the cash and the F&O side, we are seeing good amount of turnover. Let's take a quick look at the Nifty Contributors as well, which were the stocks which contributed to that 2% upside, and dominated by your heavyweights. Hdfc Twins contributed nearly almost 90 points to the up move. ICICI Bank contributed about 25, and L&T was open about. But in a market like today's, Neeraj, Reliance did not perform.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, maybe Reliance didn't need to perform on the markets to do well. I think it will perform when the others don't. Today, I think the HDFC Twins just made up for it. No, I'm not suggesting any kind of management on the Nifty, by the way. And lastly, we already spoke about the market within the turnover. Just the fact that the world markets, just want to pull them up once before we get to Hemain for his final thoughts. Europe should come up on your screen. Maybe the Dow futures or the S&P futures should come up on your screen. Mixed back, but margin actually in the green. They have improved
CAC
during the course of the day.
Yeah, both CAC and DAX have moved higher.
Have actually moved higher. So good going there. Well, Dow futures about 0.75%, not a bad outlook. So if indeed the bull market stay this way, there is positivity. Hemant, would you believe that, I mean, you mentioned that we might actually see 11,250 or thereabouts. Would it be a very swift move or will it be a labored move over the next couple of weeks?
No, I think it would be a labored move because if you're up 400 points in 2 days in a dead cat bounce, I don't think it can continue the same momentum. Otherwise, we'll be at 11,600 by next Monday. Now, that's not the case. So I have a feeling that we'll walk into a bout of resistance tomorrow itself. I think 11,078 is one level I would be slightly watchful about, and followed by 11,150. So, no, it's not going to be a sharp move, and I think it'll struggle over here.
Okay, so not a sharp move, might struggle. Keep that at the back of your mind. Hemant, take a moment to thank you for joining in today and giving us your perspectives, and great calling on the last week on the 11,200 call as well.
Thank you.
Good going there. Well, on a good note, it's a wrap on this leg of Countdown from Navneet, me and the entire team that puts this show together. Thanks so much for watching.